Nuff Said Reading Club. I'm Rob Southgate. With me,
Phil Parrish.
fill me in, Phil. So we are reviewing the Immortal Iron Fist, which originally when we did our other Iron Fist review, this is what you thought we were reading. I thought we were reading the other one. So now we're finally going full circle.
Yes.
Very, very different books. This one, David Aha, is that how you say his name? I never know. He's the penciler on the cover. We've got Travel Foreman did the artwork inside. This is where it gets important to me. Now they're great. I thought the artwork was great in this, so I'm not throwing any shade at anybody. I thought the artwork was great. But to me, I love comics. I love the artwork. But I always look at the writer first, I should say. Mm-hmm. There's certain artists that I go right to. And there are certain writers that I go right to. That's probably a better way to say it. In this case, Matt Fraction and Ed Brubaker, you just hit a home run for me. So I was all over this. I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't know about this series. I love both of these guys. I was really surprised. Now, this is from, what year was this one? 2006.
Yes.
And we're just reviewing the first, 6 issues of this?
Yeah, the first arc, I believe it's 6, yeah. Yeah,
and it was one storyline. What was it? Here, I have it here. It had a name. It has a name. It's certainly not there. It's not there. Here it is. The last Iron Fist story. That was the arc. Mm-hmm. Initial reactions. What do you think, Phil?
I really liked this. In 2006, that's when it first came out. I was in the store and I was looking for something new, and I just picked up the first issue. I think it might have been the first 2. And like you, I was like Brubaker, Fraction, I'm here, and I was just like floored. I was like, I wasn't expecting much, but I was like, wow, this is good.
Now, had you read Iron Fist before this, or was he one of these peripheral characters for you?
I had read a little bit. There had been like a previous Heroes for Hire, like in the late 90s. I'd read with, him as part of a group, but this was probably some of the first solo stuff I read with Iron Fist. And I was just like,
my only exposure to this, I mean, I knew of him. He was a peripheral player. Was reading some Heroes for Hire. I didn't read a ton of them. What I had read, I liked. It's funny, I've been kind of cleaning out garage and finding comics and stuff. I've got all these old long boxes. I had a pretty good amount of those Heroes for Hire, and I was surprised because I didn't really remember. And then as I started leafing through, I'm like, oh, these were great stories. So I was pretty familiar with Iron Fist, but not as a solo character. Mm-hmm. This was great.
Oh, yeah.
And that last series was great. That last one that we reviewed, if you listen to that review, really loved it. I really enjoyed it, and it was a very different take than this. That's something that stood out. You told the same story in the beginning, basically. Like this is something I really enjoyed. So with Batman, they retell that story over and over and over. And each time it's a little tweak, a little this, a little that. Some take a little different perspective, some don't. With these 2 books, now, granted, Batman, you've got 800 million issues to do this with, which is why it may not seem as fresh when it happens. With this, it felt like the same story, maybe told through a different lens. But what I really enjoyed is in that first series we read, they spent a lot of time. A lot of the story stemmed out of his origin story of being lost in the Himalayas with his parents, right? Mm-hmm. This, it's like, I don't know, 4 panels, and they move on. They make reference to it, but all they did was show you them walking through the Himalayas, and they moved forward. That was awesome to me because it was like opening, a Pandora's box. I kept going, well, wait a minute. Are they going to go with the same thing? He did betray him. What happened here? But that just became like, hey, we've got time to get to that story. Yes. Let's get into what's going on with Iron Fist. And I really loved it. I also loved how they tied in, like we had this right from out of the box. And you said this when we talked about this series, right out of the box, Hydra.
Yes.
And that was great. Knowing that he's battling Hydra and knowing who this character is, that he's at this street level and everything, like, to me, it really tied things in a different way. I loved it.
Oh yeah, because when I first read that, I was like, I was expecting, ninjas and all this Far East mysticism, and then I'm like Hydra. I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, this is smack in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, yeah. As we went on, it got kind of crazy. We got into more mystical stuff. I got a standout moment, and it was in the first issue and I don't remember this, so I don't remember it from the other book, so I don't know if they did this, but I really understand the moment where he became Iron Fist from this book. Because remember, he has to do this thing where he battles the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if he does that, he's Iron Fist. But in this book, what they did was they had him, there's one panel where he plunges his fists into the heart of the dragon. And they don't come back and like, glowing fist. But I knew that's where it happens. He has fists of steel from that moment on. And that was a really cool moment. In fact, cool enough that now I want to read this whole series. I do. I'm totally into it. And I'm just like, how did I get so invested in a character that was so peripheral that I didn't really care about? I'm getting more interested in, and I'm waiting for the Netflix series. That frame, I was like, oh, it's such a different origin than we've seen from anybody else. That's cool.
Oh yeah, they did so much. They did so many new things in this series. Like even in this arc, we see that there's, Danny Rand wasn't the first Iron Fist. There was multiple Iron Fists before him.
Well, that's how the book starts. I thought that was a really creative way of doing it too.
And even like the guy before him, I think it was the one right before him, used his powers in different ways. He didn't like charge up his fists. Like he could like charge up bullets in a gun and stuff. And
yeah, and it added a history. Now that's something else I'm not familiar with. If this history has been established before now, other than through talking about it, because I know in the other book they talked about how you're the next Iron Fist or whatever. Here we saw this Iron Fist, and it made me kind of want to see what are the stories there, what happens there.
Oh yeah, and if you have to keep reading this series because they'll show even like previous Iron Fists from hundreds of years ago. Yes.
So they do like whole stories of those guys. Danny Rand is the glue because that's who we know. Mm-hmm. Oh man, see?
Yeah, I think there was at least an issue or two where there was like a whole issues with different Iron Fists, but some of the issues it was just like part of the issue.
Yeah,
as a flashback, but they even go into there's more mystical cities than the one he knows, and each have their own champion.
So they're really universe building here with this character, and you know what?
Oh, yeah.
I think this is a character that has kind of had the short shift until now. People know who he is because of the Netflix series coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It's penetrated, and even for somebody like me who's a Marvel fan, it's reached me differently. So now I'm definitely interested, but boy, between the last series and this series, I'm all in. I want to know more.
Yeah, I think this is where they really started like building like this whole big backstory and this whole world for him. Before that, it was mentioned, he came from this city and
yeah. And I would be interested to know if we go way back, if they have that story of him and the parents and then the guide, or if they really just have him lost there, he loses his parents and he ends up at the city. Because there's this whole like underlying backstory in both of these where there's betrayal and there's him going back for revenge. I don't remember any of that ever coming up in those old Heroes for Hire books. So I wonder if that's like a reimagining. If it is, it's an excellent reimagining. It really adds depth here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure with these more modern series, that's where they came in. I don't think, it was just him and the parents getting lost before. Now it's like, well, maybe the father, wasn't as innocent and didn't have the best of intentions. And
yeah. Well, the other series really hit that home. It made the father. Well, remember, he becomes the bad guy basically, or at least part of him does. Yeah, this is a high recommend for me. especially, but I do think it would do you well to maybe read that other series first because it's different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think if you read this, this is more. Even though it gets really weird with all the mysticism stuff, it's more down the center
Mm-hmm.
compared to that other series. That other series is wild. I think it was better for me personally that I read that wild series because I enjoyed it so much. Then go to this and get that like universe building. But excellent work, man. Excellent, excellent. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so this one we're talking about is the Immortal Iron Fist. The other one is Iron Fist, the Living Weapon.
Yes, we may got to make sure that's right because even we got that wrong. And it is all on Marvel U. So let's see. One more thing. This was from 2006. I think I said that before. Started in 2006. Is this series still going on?
No, because that one we did before that happened afterwards, and then that.
Oh, it did.
Yes.
Okay, well, erase what I said. Read this one first. And
yeah,
then read that.
This one was like 20 or 30 some issues.
27 issues, ended in 2009. And we've got different writers. We've got some of the same people working on it, but different writers. After, I can't do it that quickly. Oh, even by 11, Brubaker is still hanging in there writing this. I don't see Fraction in here, but Brubaker's all the way through issue 14, and Fraction is there 16. Yeah, so these guys were hanging around working on this book.
Oh yeah,
they just weren't show running the way they were in the beginning. Yeah, it's well worth your time. Bone up on Iron Fist before this new series hits. It's worth doing.
Oh yeah, there's the Netflix series, and I think they're coming out with like 2 new Iron Fist series like this year. So yeah, do your homework.
Do your homework. All right, let's end this episode there. Phil, thank you. Let's hear where can they find you and tell people about some of the projects you got going on.
Well, my email is nightwingpdp@gmail.com. Twitter is @nightwingpdp. I do many shows for the Nuff Said podcast. I'm also on Before the Bat, Legends of DC, and on Channel 52 with Little Hellfire. So if you like Marvel and DC, check all those out.
Yeah. And we have a YouTube channel for Nuff Said. So there's the Southgate Media Group YouTube channel, which this is on right now, the live stream. But then this will get edited as all of our shows are edited and put on Nuff Said Universe, which is its own YouTube channel. And we're working on, we haven't talked about this much, but we are working on adding at least one more exclusive to YouTube show for that YouTube channel. We're also trying to put together at least one exclusive to Patreon show as a gift to people that do want to support us and that do subscribe to us, where they get unique content that we're not putting on YouTube or on our podcasts. So there you go. A couple of new things coming. So if you want to support us, go to Patreon. Links to all this stuff will be in the show notes. You can follow us on Twitter @NuffSaidPodcast. You can follow us on Facebook. Sign up for our email list. We're going to be having some giveaways with Entertainment Earth coming up soon. Just lots of fun stuff happening. So there you go. I'm done for now. Follow me on Twitter @RSouthgate. Now I'm done. Nuff said.
Nuff said.